Hello everyone, Marco Chiappetta for Hot Hardware here to show you something a little bit different and maybe have just a little bit of fun. So what you see in front of you is a tiny in-win case crammed full of AMD components. So AMD has been reaching out to professional gamers and esports teams and trying to get the message across that you don't always need a huge system with a giant discrete graphics card to get a good gaming experience. This particular configuration is for the FNATIC eSports team, and they play games like CSGO, League of Legends, World of Tanks, and this system at 1080p is capable of cranking out good frame rates in games like that. So before I open up the system and show you what's inside, let's just do a quick tour of the externals. It's probably going to be tough to see on video, but right here are a couple of holes for LED indicators. You have power and drive activity LEDs behind these two little holes. Power switch is right here. Couple of USB 3 ports with headphone and mic jacks. There's the in-win logo there. This case can also stand up. This could be the bottom. There's a couple of feet on the bottom there. Flip it around to the back, and here's all the I/O. There's a small integrated power supply. There's the little Mickey Mouse connector for the power cord. Audio jacks, Ethernet port, USB 3 and USB 2 ports, built-in wireless, DVI and HDMI outputs along with a VGA output. There's a PS2 port and an SPDIF output right there. And on this edge, just some more venting. And on the top, you could see the CPU cooler behind that vent right there. And on the bottom, a couple more vents and an in-win logo. I've gone ahead and removed the top and bottom of the case to give you a quick look inside of this rig. So what you're looking at here is an MSI A88Xi AC version 2 motherboard. There's 16 gigs of Kingston HyperX Savage RAM installed. Now this cooler is a low profile ID cooling IS40, and underneath there is an AMD A10 7860K APU. Now that APU has a built-in Radeon R7 series graphics. So with an APU like that, this motherboard and memory, that's a full system with DX12 and Vulkan capable graphics. Now for storage, that's on the bottom of the system. Let me flip it around. Here's a peek at the bottom of the system with the cover removed. So there's only a single drive installed. Right there you see a 240 gig Silicon Power S60 SATA 3 SSD. That's the only drive in here, but there is another bay right in this area. So all of those parts I just showed you are installed inside an in-win BQ696 Chopin Mini ITX case with integrated power supply. It's right over there. And I know what you're probably thinking, a system this small with that much hardware must be really loud. That fan must spin really fast and make some noise to keep it cool. So let me give you an idea just how loud the system is. Let me turn it on. If you can't hear anything, it's because this system is dead silent. I was surprised myself. I was expecting it to be a little louder when I first turned it on, but this rig is dead silent. Please forgive the darkness for a second. I've gone ahead and installed Windows 10 on the FNATIC AMD build, and I'm going to hit the power button and show you how long it takes the system to boot. So it is off, and I am hitting the power button now. Now, give it just a moment. This 4K panel takes a second to light up. But the system is on. We should see the BIOS screen shortly. All right, monitor is lighting up now. There's my baby Groot, just for some flavor. Windows 10 is booting. And here is the desktop. So on a clean system, nothing running, what I've noticed is it will settle down and idle at only about 25 watts. And if you're browsing the web just doing basic stuff, I've seen power shoot up into the mid 80 watt range. But I'm gonna go ahead and install some games, install Fraps, and show you what frame rates and performance look like in just a bit. In terms of general performance, the rig's actually pretty quick. So with 16 gigs of RAM, a quad-core processor, Windows 10, and a fast SSD, general computing tasks, absolutely no problem, obviously. This is a 3D Mark Skydiver running on the machine right now. I don't know if you could see it on video, but it's hovering right around the 30 frames per second mark. Now, when you're running a graphics application, that silent fan I mentioned earlier does spin up a bit. I'm not sure you can hear it on video. Right now the system is about maybe 4.5 feet away from the camera, but the fan does spin up a little bit and is audible, but it's definitely not loud by any means. Now, in this Skydiver benchmark, the system scores pretty well. I'm going to let it run for a bit longer, then I'll show you the results. So here's the 3D Mark Skydiver result. You see the overall score is 59.85. It's probably hard to see on video, but the graphics score is 62.85. GT1 scored 27.51 frames per second. GT2 was right at the 30 frames per second mark. You know, and the physics scores, depending on the number of threads, they vary. At 8 threads, it was 88.3 frames per second. At 48 threads, drops down to 26.61. But the overall score is pretty good, especially considering you're talking about on-processor graphics, no discrete graphics here. Now let's see how it does in a game. AMD claims that for games like CSGO, this is perfectly acceptable without a discrete graphics card, so let's find out. So here we have some Counter-Strike Global Offensive running on the system. Right now the game's running at 1920 by 1080 with 2x multi-sampling, anti-aliasing, all graphics options set to high with 8x anisotropic filtering. And as you can see on the frame rate counter at the upper left, frame rates are in the mid-70s. Right now I'm at 72, 75. You know, it's going to fluctuate up and down depending on the amount of action on the screen. But AMD's claim that this system without a discrete graphics card is capable of playable frame rates in non-demanding titles like this is absolutely true. So games like CSGO, World of Tanks, League of Legends, depending on the server and how much is going on screen, and even older titles like DX9 titles, maybe Left 4 Dead would probably play really well on here, but you don't need a big monstrous gaming system for every type of game, as this shows right here. We hope you've enjoyed this quick look at AMD's FNATIC eSports small form factor gaming rig. Once again, this is Marco Chiappetta for Hot Hardware. If you like what you've seen here, please subscribe and be sure to stop by hothardware.com for tons of tech news and reviews.